Greetings to all of humanity. It's really a joy, it's a pleasure. It's my honor as usual to be greeting you and always bringing this message of emancipation to you, whereby I'm pointing you to look no other place but to look inwardly to discover that your real identity is your divinity. Thus, the reason why I speak to you today concerning a story of the dog and the bone. But this story is actually a parable. And growing up as a little boy, we used to read this story in our reading book. But many of us used to look at it as just a story. But not until I would have come to this place of consciousness and know exactly who I am, that I'm able to relate to the parable of the dog and the bone. And so when I share this parable with you, that was written in the form of a story, as I would have said before, and we used to use that book in school, then you would decide for yourself, what are you holding on to? Whether you are holding on to the bone and grabbing after the shadow, or you're holding on to the bone and forget about the shadow. Now, one thing I want to make clear to you is that everything I teach you, it's actually also in the Bible. And even though the story that I'm speaking to you about is not written in the Bible, when you get the essence of what I am going to bring across to you, then you will be able to say that same principle is in the Bible also. Okay? Now, let me first state that the Bible addresses the human mind and must be interpreted psychologically. That the Bible is not literal, neither is the Bible secular history. For the Bible is written symbolically, and it has no reference to anyone who existed thousands of years ago or to any actual event that would have taken place on the earth thousands of years ago. From Genesis 1 to Revelation 22, it's all a great psychological drama. It all have to do with the human psyche. Now, everything in this world that you behold, though it is without, it is within. Therefore, that which is within is real. And that which is within creates everything that is without. Because you're beholding an outer projection of your inner self. So when the story says that the dog had a massive piece of bone in its mouth and it was hungry, and that dog was traveling with that bone in his mouth and was crossing a bridge overlooking a river, and that dog happened to stop on that bridge, on that river, and look over into the water. And when that dog looked over the bridge into the water, that dog behold its own shadow. And when it behold its shadow, he saw another dog looking like himself with a bone just as big as the bone that he had in his mouth. And he, being greedy, he thought within himself, if he can only get that other bone from that dog, that he would have two bones and he would have a lot to chew on. Therefore, it is said that that dog opened its mouth to grab at the bone from another dog he was seeing, which was just a outportraying and shadowing of himself. And in so doing, he lost the real thing that he had in his mouth. And so when I think back as a little boy reading the story and now I come to this place of understanding, I realize it's a story about humanity. And it has to do with humanity, spirituality, where they fail to realize that the Bible is their spiritual autobiography. And so they are holding at the shadow and they are missing the real thing. So instead of they seek first the kingdom of God, which is within themselves, they're actually seeking the things that are outside of themselves first. So actually what they're doing, they're putting the cart before the horse. They're letting go the bone and they're grabbing at the shadow. Because this world as we know it, the Maya, it's all illusionary. So they're holding after they're going after the illusionary things and fail to realize that they are the beholder, beholding their creation. Or in other words, they are the creator beholding their creation. And that they are the perceiver beholding the perception. But they're holding to the perception as the real thing. And many are holding to the creation as if it's the real thing. That's why many people believe that they are human trying to be spiritual, instead of knowing that they are spirit having a human experience. So my brother, my sisters, many people are letting go the power of the true self. They're letting go the power of self-realization, self-actualization, self-knowledge, self-love. They're letting go all of these things to grab after the shadow. Also, they're letting go of their intuition, their imagination, their perception, their will, their reasoning. And they're grabbing at the materialistic world, being caught up in the dog-eat-dog world, being caught up in the rat race. And right there, they're ending up as the loser. Yet they believe that by the actions that they would gain, as a dog, they believe in the parable. And losing out on the essence of life, losing out on the meaning of life, because we are here to create. So many are looking for a creator outside of themselves. Many are looking for God outside of themselves instead of embracing their God self. Instead of embracing your creative self, your creative imagination. Many people are going after some power outside of themselves. Every person in this world who goes to work every day, they're going to work to be paid. Those of us who do business, we're running business to earn from that business. And we use money as the source of exchange. But that money, it was for us a thought, it was for us an idea. So the thought world is the real world, and that's the spirit world. And it's been translated into the outer world as a vibrational frequency. Because each thought is a vibrational frequency, and the brain is a transmitter and a receiver of frequency. And everything you behold is energy, vibration, and frequency. That's all it is. So we are living in, as I would have said before, in an imaginary world. So my brother and my sister, don't get caught up with the imaginary world. Don't get caught up with the odd picturing. Don't get caught up with the shadow. Hold to the reality. And I'm saying to you that consciousness is the only reality. That is why you have to use your consciousness to create your reality consciously. And how are you going to do that? You got to use your imagination. You have to trust your imagination, because imagination creates reality. Because everything in this world, it was first imagined. It was first a thought. It was first an idea. That's the reason why you're told in St. John 1 that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything made that was made. Teaching you that everything that have been made was first imagined. And everything else that ever going to be made, it must first be imagined. And that the Him is not speaking of a man who existed 2,000 years ago. That Him is speaking of a power that existed from ever before. A power that cannot be created or be destroyed. And that power, when you say Him, it's just a personification to represent the human imagination. So when you give that power away to some idol that you believe that exists outside of yourself, you're like the dog, letting go the bone, letting go the hard and objective fact to run after the shadow. So my brothers and my sisters, don't go running after the shadow world. Get in touch with the real world, and the real world is within you. And when you get in touch with the real world, it will express itself in your outer environment and enable you to live a life of joy, peace, happiness, having the right understanding that you're one with the earth, having the right understanding that this body has been borrowed for a certain time, and that this body is not you. The real you reside in this body. This is the house. And the thoughts that you often go back to is actually where you're living, where you're living psychologically. So my brother and my sisters, what I really want to share with you, or what I want you to take from what I'm saying, is that the only thing that is real is the very life in you. Therefore, make use of that power. Because the greatest thing that anyone who is religious can claim that they can receive from God is eternal life. And that which is eternal, it means it have no beginning, it have no end, which cannot be created, cannot be destroyed. I'm saying to you, that essence is in you. And all you need to do is lay claim, receive it by believing it, affirm it, and conjure whatever you want to conjure into this three-dimensional world. Speak it, decree it. It is said in the Bible, it shall decree a thing and it shall be established. You're told also to call those things that be not as though they were. You're told also again that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Pull on that unseen, that formless. Use that formless substance to create your reality consciously by having it expressed or manifest in this three-dimensional world. And then you will know for sure that the Creator is in you. Therefore, you hold to that which is real, and do not let go that which is real and go after that which is not real, which is just a reflection. So my brother and my sister, I want to thank you very much, and I want to say to you, if what I'm saying to you really makes sense to you, and if you are a person who been living way back in the 1970s and so on, and you would have put your hand in such a reading book and you would have read that story over, especially if you come from the Caribbean, okay, and you was reading that story. You know, it's really dawned on me that it's a parable, and I just feel led to really share it with you, that it's a parable. And many of the stories that we used to learn in school now, I could see them that they were just parables. And when we wake up, we realize that they're just parables. Okay? So I want to say to you that if this is the first time you're listening to me and I'm really making sense to you and would like to get more of this message, I would like to say, if you haven't subscribed already, to subscribe, to comment, or to share this video. But before I leave you, I want to let you know, as usual, that this message that I always bring to all of humanity, that it is a singular eye message of self-realization, of which Matthew 6:22 says that if your eye be single, that your whole body be full of light. And to be honest with you, my brother and my sister, hadn't it been that my whole body was filled with light when that single eye opened within me, and I come to realize that you shall change from mortal to immortality in a twinkling of an eye, as it is written in the Bible. That twinkling of an eye is an opening of an eye where you will awake from the dream of life. And it did happen to me. And when it happened to me, I want to say to you that I first of all would have felt that great and mighty shaking. And then I would have heard the unearthly wind and ascend on like a fiery beam, and burst my crown chakra. Actually came out of my skull and became invisible, became one with the wind. And from that time to now, I've been testifying to the world concerning the virgin birth, concerning the resurrection, concerning the born again experience, concerning the real rapture, concerning true Christianity, which is pointing you to look inwardly, and teaching each and every one that real salvation is self-realization. That's the reason why I always say to you, let no one ever brainwash or deceive you to make you believe that the single eye above the pyramid and the US dollar, that it's an evil occult symbol, because occult actually means that which is hidden, but it's not evil, okay? It is the all-seeing eye of God in you, who is your imagination. And when you have the experience, you also come to realize that the eye represents the eye of the mystics, the prophets, the seers, those wise ones who would vibrate beyond humanity into their divinity. That's the reason why, my brother and my sister, on many occasions you will see me put my hand right above my crown chakra and give you the symbol of the single eye, saying to you that when you have the experience, that you come to realize that it is the rising of the S-U-N in a S-O-N, and that it is the dawning of a new day in your life. For the sun, as in the S-U-N, parallels the human imagination, and the human imagination parallels the sun. For without the sun, there is no life and there is no light. And without the human imagination, there isn't anything made that was made. Also, you're told in Psalms 84:11 that the Lord thy God is a sun, as in a S-U-N, and a shield, and no good thing will he withhold from you. And truly, the sun has never withhold any good thing from you. For the sun is what powers all of humanity and give all of humanity its energy. Then, in Malachi chapter 4 verses 2, you're told also that the Son of Righteousness shall arise in you with healing in his wings. And that is why I'm bringing healing to all of humanity when the sun will have risen in me, and encouraging each and everyone to use your mind power, which is your solar power, your sun power, your God power, your creative power, which is actually the sexual power. Use that power to achieve your every desire. So with that being said, I want to say peace, love you all, I'm out.